Inside the warehouse at Oriole Park at Camden Yards, it is the MASN All Access podcast. Paul Mancano alongside Bobby Blanco. Bob, thanks for going with me with the.
I don't know what I was jumped in on there.
Yeah, I let the mood of the moment, fuel. I never think about that kind of stuff beforehand.
I know you don't.
I was just
I
doing.
watch you just kind of.
Yeah,
just go with it.
Just make it up for those not watching. I was doing kind of a travel system. Is this NFL? Is this delay of game? This is delay of game.
No,
right?
This is legal procedure.
Illegal procedure. Delay of game.
Delay of game. Yeah.
Delay of game
like
is the arms
on each other.
Yeah.
But also like NBA travel. Like
yes.
LeBron, you took 7 steps, but it's traveling.
But that would never be called.
No, because they never call traveling in the NBA.
This is true.
Yeah.
We are only covering the hottest team in the American League today.
Yeah.
And by the hottest team, I mean probably the second hottest team because the Yankees are good. The Baltimore Orioles are on fuego. Fuego, Bobby.
En
fuego. They are very hot right now. Honestly, it has been a very good month since the beginning of July. It has been very good to the Baltimore Orioles.
Yeah. They finished July 500. They have been 500 in their 4 games in August. They have been 500 since the All-Star break. That is way better than what we've seen the first half of the season, and they're putting together some solid wins, scoring some runs. I was at the game on Saturday night. That was actually a really good baseball game. Entertaining, had everything. All the stars came out to play. Everyone on both sides were playing really well. Obviously, we saw Vladdy Jr. hit 2 home runs on Thursday. But Trey Mancini hit the Trey bomb on Saturday night, and
still just here raking.
Bullpen was able to close it out.
He had such an impressive at-bat on Sunday. Mancini did, and I think it was his first at-bat of the game. He fouled off a couple pitches and ended up hitting one opposite field down the line. The guy he has turned into such a good hitter.
Yeah.
Just he can hit to all fields. He has power to all fields. It's not just, the first couple months of the season, he was hitting everything. Now it seems like he hit a little bit of a blip in like June, and he was frustrated about it, and he went back and he fixed the issues that he had. It just doesn't seem like there's like really a hole in his swing.
Yeah.
He has been so solid at hitting any kind of pitch. And he used to, his style has always been aggressiveness, and that still is his style, but he knows how to lay off pitches in the dirt. He knows how to lay off the high fastball way more than he did last year, way more than he did at the beginning of the season. He just is a professional freaking hitter now.
Credit to Orioles Radio's Kevin Brown. Not that Kevin Brown.
Not that Kevin
Not
Brown.
that other Kevin Brown either.
Yep.
Orioles Radio Kevin Brown.
Yeah, the 15-year-old Kevin
Brown.
For
this statistic, Trey Mancini is tied with Mike Trout for leads for home runs hit off fastballs in the American League. They both have 21.
That is nuts.
Tied with Mike Trout. Mike Trout, a generational player, future Hall of Famer already in his own right. And Trey Mancini is just going step for step with him when it comes to hitting home runs off fastballs.
Just don't throw him a fastball.
No. You talk about him being able to cover all fields. It starts with him being able to cover the plate.
Yeah.
I think he can hit any pitch in the zone over the plate. He can hit outside, inside, obviously straight down the middle, high or low. He's doing a great job, and this is something that he's probably tweaked and worked on since his slump in beginning of July, late June, right? Yeah. Where he is, one, being more patient, not just going out there hacking. Obviously, slumps get frustrating. Players kind of just go up there and start hacking. But two, he's being able to cover the plate entirely with his swing, and whether it's outside, pitchers can't beat him outside or inside or low anymore. He's finding a way to get the ball into play, and that's then increasing his spray chart by hitting to all parts of the field.
And it feels like he rarely swings and misses. He had, on Thursday, that Vladdy Jr. game, he came up with the bases loaded and just hit a sharp line drive that ended up being a double play, but it was like he's making solid contact. Yeah. It would have been a base hit if it were 2 feet to the right. His exit velo seems way higher than it has been. He has developed into a darn good hitter.
Yeah.
A darn good hitter.
And this is something that not surprising. It's something we knew he had in him, and that the Orioles valued.
Right.
He's going to be one of their best. And not just a guy that hits for power, is going to hit for home runs. He's going to hit for average, too. Yeah. He's hitting almost 300 right now.
280.
So getting back up to that range, and while also adding 20-plus home runs and probably close to 100 RBIs.
Speaking of 300 hitters, we got to talk about maybe the hottest hitter in the Orioles lineup, Anthony Santander. What a day he had on Sunday. His own personal fan club of British scouts out in left field behind him.
Yeah, I missed that. You have to coach me up on what actually happened.
So ridiculous. So we're playing the video for those who are watching the video side. So when I first was watching this game and Jim Hunter mentions that they're scouts, I was like, not like baseball scouts, right? They're scouts, British scouts that go and just kind of explore America.
Like Cub Scouts?
So they're kind of like Cub Scouts. They're like a little bit older. They're like high school age. And it's like, mixed boys and girls. And they're kind of dressed like Cub Scouts or Boy Scouts or Girl Scouts. But they were all over him on Sunday. So
just watching the girl, what, did she just go buy a Santander?
She went to the team store and bought his jersey.
And then screamed, "I love you."
Yeah. And so they were obviously all seated behind him. And I think part of what sparked them getting insanely hyped over him was that in the first inning, he threw out a runner at third on a great throw. Somebody tagged up from second on just a terrible decision. And he threw out a runner at third. And
the Blue Jays had a lot of those this weekend.
Yeah, yes. Oh, the Blue Jays they had so many bad defensive blunders all weekend. Yeah. They are a bad team.
Yeah.
I mean, especially now that they traded away their guys, they're a bad team.
That Saturday game, obviously the call at home plate, which is kind of the turning point of the game, didn't allow them to take the lead, but I got to go back and check, but it felt like they left like 20 guys on base.
Yeah.
Or gave the Orioles at least 4 or 5 outs.
Yeah, they are. Especially now that they have fewer major league players, they're a bad team. But anyway, Santander had that fan club, and it seemed like from that moment on, they were just in love. And if you've watched the video of them, a video got retweeted at MASN Orioles by us because one of the fans out there was like taking it with their phone, and they're doing soccer chants out there, which I don't watch soccer. It is so incredibly entertaining.
I'm forever blowing bubbles. Pretty bubbles in the air. That one?
That was not that one.
I like that one.
What fans do that?
Ooh, I'm gonna have to have intern Brendan or Cam.
Soccer
West
experts.
Ham? It might be West Ham. All right.
That would have been a fun one. If Adam Jones were there, that would have been a really fun one. It was like a call and response type thing, and it's funny because like it's like the version of like the Yankees like bleacher creatures.
Yeah,
it was like they were and waiting for him to acknowledge. And anytime he made any kind of routine catch out in left field, they would just go nuts.
That's awesome.
And he was playing with them a little bit, like would throw the ball to him, but he would like wait and try to find the right person. And after the game, he had some nice things to say. Fortunately, they won, and they got him on the game, the broadcast right afterwards.
Yeah.
And he said, and then he tweeted out something really nice. What a cool experience!
It is West Ham forever blowing bubbles. But no, that soccer chant that's pretty cool.
It was awesome. Yeah.
It's cool. Like having a lot of British baseball fan visitors this year.
It's
obviously,
a big year.
Baseball Brit, stopped by earlier this season, and now we got a bunch of teenage British Cub Scouts cheering Anthony Santander on.
I was not at the game, but people who were at the game, fans especially, said it was the best moment at Camden
Well, it looks
Yards.
like it took over our broadcast because they kept showing after every play him just throwing the ball into the outfield.
This morning, it was the front page of ESPN.com.
Wow, that's hilarious.
That is nuts.
I did get a push notification on my phone.
Did you?
I get MLB at-bat updates and ESPN, and I think I got both notifications being like, Santander has his British fan club. And I was like, what?
Yeah.
I didn't really, because I figured we would be talking about it today, and I was right.
Absolutely absurd. And frankly, he deserves a fan.
Oh, well deserved.
It's not like they picked, just a random guy that was only going to be on the team for 2 days. Anthony Santander has been low-key very productive.
Yeah.
In his 50 games with the Orioles, he is hitting now 296, slashing 296, 344, 485. His OPS, if he had enough games, which I don't know at this point, it always shifts the qualifications, he would be second on the O's to Trey Mancini with an 829 OPS. Yeah. He's been crushing the ball. All of a sudden, I mean, he had obviously had a fewer games, around 30-some games last year with the O's, only hit the one homer. This year, he's already got 8 homers. He's still 24 years old. He's pre-arbitration eligible. Remember, he was a Rule 5 pick. This dude is turning into a low-key producer.
Oh,
out in left
absolutely.
field.
I think what I am most impressed by are the RBIs, the batting with runners in scoring position, or the ability to drive in runs. You're looking at the Orioles standings right now. He has 31 RBIs. That puts him 6th on the team, and basically half the games that everyone else. Like the next highest games is 65 by Pedro Severino, who's tied for 8th with just 29 home runs. And Pedro Severino is a catcher, so he doesn't play every day. Yeah. The fact that Santander is almost in the top 5, if he would have 32, he'd be in the top 5 on the team for RBIs. And look at 93 by Hanser Alberto, 84 by Dwight Smith Jr., who's also been hurt, 111 by Jonathan Villar, 105 by Trey Mancini, 106 by Renato Nunez. He's doing it within half the games, and he's putting himself at the top of the list in terms of RBIs and across the board. Like you said, he's not qualified yet because he doesn't have enough games under his belt. But take that away, he's producing in the small amount. I mean, he's had to be played every day.
Yeah.
Brendan Knight has to run him out there every day because he's being that productive. And we've seen him inch his way up to the batting order. Like, he's now hitting higher in the batting order than he has ever had when he's been here before. And when he first came up, he was obviously hitting 7th or 8th.
Right.
And now he's hitting the top 4.
I think he's another product of this kind of no pressure environment that just kind of guys step up. If you have a shot and he's been given a shot, just take advantage of it. And Dwight Smith Jr. had a very good first couple months of the season, and then it just kind of seemed fluky. He just kind of fell off. He had the concussion. He's obviously struggling with injuries right now and has missed time, but he has been not nearly as productive now as he was for the first couple months of the season. For Santander, I don't know what it is. Maybe it's the fact that he's a big, strong guy. I mean, he is built. The guy is built. Yeah. He's big. It doesn't seem fluky. It just doesn't. It seems like he has the ability to stick around, at least for, it seems like these numbers could sustain themselves for the last couple months of the season.
In 50 games, yes, they're not enough for him to qualify as a team leader or amongst league leaders in some of these categories, but it's enough of a sample size where this, like you said, not a fluke. Like, he's not 25 games, it's not 20 games, and that he's playing because of injuries. No, he's now being run out there every single day. He's basically been an every day guy since July.
Yeah.
Since the beginning of July. So, let's just look at July till now stats. I mean, let's make that the qualifier. He's got to be amongst some of the league leaders. Definitely Orioles leaders in terms of RBIs, batting average, 296. Again, looking at these top 10 in RBIs, no one else. I mean, we're not, Hanser Alberto's hitting 314, but
Ridiculous.
Then it's Santander right there hitting 296. I mean, so it's yes, it's a small sample size, but it's enough where, no, it's not a fluke. Yeah. It's actually him being productive and playing really well.
And Bobby, I think it's interesting. This is a good kind of transition point because we talked about a week ago around the trade deadline. I think that the Orioles, they didn't feel the need to trade anybody, and they were probably smart not to trade anybody at the deadline. But they probably at the beginning of the year wished that a Mark Trumbo was healthy, maybe that a Dan Straley had worked out so that they could get Alex Cobb. Maybe even Michael Givens would have like a sub-4 ERA, that some of these guys would be trade pieces. And I think you can say that didn't come to fruition. It wasn't a big deal. It's not like a huge loss that they weren't able to get anybody that was a good trade chip. They did trade Andrew Kashner, of course. But whereas that kind of didn't come to maybe wasn't fully part of the plan just because of luck or whatever other factors. The Orioles, the other goal of the season was to find diamonds in the rough and maybe turn them into major league players. And we've gotten that so far. Yeah. Between Hanser Alberto, Renato Nunez, who is approaching 30 home runs, between now Anthony Santander, the Orioles at John Means, the Orioles have found several. Pedro Severino have found several young guys.
Wilkerson.
I mean, that was a big goal. I would say that's like the most important part of the season is trying to find these guys.
I think in terms of the people they already had on the roster, yes. Yeah. We've talked about how the big days on the calendar have already come past, draft day, J2, and the trade deadline. But in terms of who was already here, yes, that's a big part of it. Mike Elias and Sigma Idell and Brandon High need to know who they have inside, because obviously you can't just give up everybody and start from scratch. Like these are players that are here right now are gonna be here in the long term. You have to find out who those guys are, and we've talked about that. That they have to get their own scouting reports because again, this is their first year. Say for a handful of guys that were signed in the offseason, these aren't the guys that Mike Elias and Brandon High have brought in. Some of these guys were here before and from the old regime, and so they need to figure out which of these guys can be for the long term or in their plans for this rebuild. And like you said, Santander, 25, pre-arbitration eligible. this is a guy that they could keep around for a long time and be like, all right, we have our left fielder for the foreseeable future.
Yeah. Or at least the fact that he is just his age 25 season, the fact that he is close to, he is still so far away from free agency.
Yeah.
Makes it seem like a little bit he's would be slightly more in the plans than somebody who's 27, somebody who's 28, it just seems like he could be. And if he keeps this up, he could be actually somebody who actually sticks around, who's not just a trade piece this offseason or next trade deadline.
Right.
But a lot of this stuff those storylines are fun. The fact that they're winning is very fun right now. My question for you, Bobby.
Is it too much?
Is it too much? Are the Orioles too good?
Are the Orioles too good?
And I know obviously...
These are the questions we're asking ourselves on August 5th.
This is only half sarcastic, but because the other point in the season is... Obviously, you are trying to win. Obviously, Brandon Hyde is trying to win every game, as are the players. Mike Elias said last week when he met with the media talking about the trade deadline, I like it more when we win than when we lose, and it matters. It is something on the forefront. That being said, a first number 1 overall pick, as we saw with Adley Rutschman, is pretty nice, too.
It's pretty nice. Those are really valuable pieces.
Yes, yeah. And, that being said, some years the drop-off between 1 and 2 is bigger than other years. I think this year was last year was a big year for them to get the number 1 overall pick. I think, the fact that there was a clear-cut number 1 overall guy, there isn't that every year. But the Orioles, as of late, how well they've been doing, just some stats. They've won 10 of their last 17. In July, they're 500. They've had win streaks of 3-3 at times and a couple 2-game win streaks. They are 4 games up on Detroit now in terms of the number 1 overall pick ranking standings. They're just 1 game back of Kansas City, so if they continue to win, they could pass Kansas City and be in the 3rd place. The question is, are they too good?
Yes. I'm going to say yes. I mean, I don't know, because for me... Getting back-to-back number 1 overalls, like we saw what the Astros did with that kind of ability, the fact that you're able to grab. Now, again, we talked about this during our draft coverage too. Adley Rutschman was a clear-cut number 1 pick this past year, and we knew that a year ago. We knew that as long as he was healthy during his last season at Oregon State, he was going to be the number 1 overall pick. We knew that. As of right now, I don't know if we know who is the clear-cut favorite to be number 1 overall next year.
So I did some research.
In 2020.
I don't know if it's clear-cut now, and, anything can change. The guy, his name is Emerson Hancock from Georgia. Okay. He's a right-handed pitcher, and according to Jim Callis, who's the guy for the draft, said he would have been the first pitcher taken in the 2019 draft had he been eligible. By the way, some great, strong names I looked up in mock draft. Spencer Torkelson. Pete Crow Armstrong, and Asa Lacy.
All right.
Just some strong names.
Yeah.
Imagine if one of those guys is...
Okay, so that's, 5 guys, and there's no guy who's running away with it as of right now. I mean, again, last year, we talked about it, like, if there was ever a time for the Orioles to definitely go, like, kind of all in to this rebuild, it was this past year, because you had the clear-cut number 1 guy who's in Adley Rutschman being the number 1 overall pick. We don't know who that is quite yet. There might not be a big drop-off between, say, 1 and 3 in next year's draft. So as long as, you're not falling out of, like, the top 5,
right, you're
still going to get a quality player who could be a corner piece in your franchise in years to come.
Yeah.
I am definitely in the camp, though, if you have the means, no pun intended, to secure be the worst team in baseball, just be the worst team in baseball and get the number 1 overall pick in back-to-back seasons.
Well, that's
a sure thing then, because then it's in your control. Like, the White Sox, not the White Sox, the Royals were not in control of their pick because they had to wait to see what the Orioles did number 1.
Right.
If you're number 1, you're in total control of the draft because you get the first selection. So I would rather have that option than have to base my selection, whether it's a top 3, top 2, whatever, on what the guys in front of me have to do.
And the fact that you look at the other teams around the Orioles right now, Detroit traded off some pieces. They traded off Shane Green at the deadline. The Royals traded off some of their better pieces right at the deadline. The Orioles pretty much stood pat.
Right, so those teams got worse
within
the past week. And the Orioles, are stayed the same.
Exactly. So
if not, and they're playing really hot. So it's kind of like a perfect mixture of all these other bad teams got even worse while the Orioles are playing the best baseball of the season.
Right.
And while not trading off anybody.
Yeah.
Significant.
I will say on the other side, to play devil's advocate, and also, I agree with it. It's not the end to calm fans. It's not the only thing. It's not.
Right. And, even if you get the number one overall pick back-to-back, there's no guarantee that, Adley Rutschman and whoever it is in 2020 are going to be future Hall of Famers and bring this team back to contention and win pennants and World Series. Well, there's no guarantee for that. And it just increases your odds, I think.
And the Astros had the number one overall pick, and they made some mistakes. They drafted Mark Appel, who never made it to the big leagues with one of those number one overall picks. And the other guy is no longer in the Astros organization. I don't know. He may have made his debut. I can't remember who it is. But of those 3 number one overall picks, they pretty much only hit on one, which was Carlos Correa.
Yeah.
So the more that you have, the better chance. But unlike, if this were like the NBA and you get a Zion Williamson, if you get the number one overall pick and you're the Knicks just sitting there waiting to get that pick, it's like
Poor Knicks.
it's not the only thing. It's not
right.
And
also, obviously there's a huge difference between basketball, football, even hockey than baseball, just because of the depth of the draft.
Exactly.
And all the minor league guys. And there are guys that come out of the 14th round, the 67th round, or whatever, or go undrafted and sign and then make it to the big leagues and become huge parts of your franchise. But I also, back to the original question, I also understand if you're Mike Elias and Brandon Hyde, you can't, just because you want the number one overall pick, you can't go to your hey, you guys really need to start losing. That's not. And like you said, Mike Elias said that last week when he spoke to the media. That's not their mindset. They want to win games.
Yeah,
they want to win ball games, and that's obviously priority number one as players, as a team organization. But down the line, I would just be worried. I don't think this is going to happen because I think there are teams that are way better than the Orioles, and they'll fall. I don't want them to fall out of the top 5.
Yeah,
and I don't think they're in danger of doing that.
I don't think so.
But I would be wary if then we're getting all right, we're playing too good. Let's go. Yeah. And then also, the fact that they didn't actually trade anyone at the deadline also helps in the sense that, all your best players are still here while other teams got worse.
Exactly. And not only would the players not, take a step back at any point, but also Brandon Hyde would never make a managerial decision to lose ever.
Oh, no.
They are trying to win, you know, and they're playing the best players.
Yeah. It's not a tanking scenario.
No,
it's not, and I don't think it should be either. I was just I'm surprised because I was under the impression that this team is going to be the worst team in baseball, bar none, and that is fine because that means you get the number one overall pick in back-to-back seasons, which is a good thing, especially with teams going through this rebuild. I'm just surprised that, one, they weren't able to make any trades, so they didn't get worse, which is a good thing. But two, also that they're able to play at this level, and then you think about across the board, all the injuries, like we mentioned, no Mark Trumbo this entire season, no Alex Cobb for a majority. He made, 2 starts? Yeah. They traded Andrew Kashner away, who was having your best season as a starting pitcher. Richard Blyer, obviously, was coming off some injuries and hasn't been here. Some of the main corner pieces haven't been here, and yet they're still finally able to win, which, again, is a good thing. Yeah. But it's just you know what? It's becoming a scenario where we're kind of playing our way out of the number one overall pick.
Well, and you're exactly right, because it's these, if you were to say, at the beginning of the season, Mark Trumbo, who is
all these guys would not play.
These are at least major league hitters.
But the Orioles would be better than the Royals and the Tigers. You'd be like, no.
Yeah. The fact that, at the beginning of the season, it's what would the Orioles have to do to not be the worst team in baseball? And I would say, well, they would probably need a healthy Mark Trumbo. They probably need a good season from Dylan Bundy. They haven't really gotten that.
Right.
They would probably need, I don't know, maybe somebody like a Dan Straley to work out. That didn't work out.
Yeah.
The fact that they are running out a lineup every night, which is made up of guys who are not proven MLB players to this point,
right?
Who have very little MLB experience. There are really barely any proven MLB players in their lineup, and they're still able to go 500 over a month.
Yeah.
That is really impressive.
Yeah.
I mean, Trey Mancini and Chris Davis are probably the closest thing that you can think of in terms of experienced major league players that they're throwing out there.
Yeah.
Other than that, it's Pedro Severino and Chance Sisco and Anthony Santander. It's and they're still winning.
Right, and I would have told you that, Trey Mancini and Renato Nunez are each going to hit they're going to hit over 30 home runs this season, and Anthony Santander is going to be one of your best overall hitters by the end of the season's end. You've been like, there's no chance, if that's the case, that the Orioles aren't the worst team in baseball. But they're not.
Yeah.
They're playing, and like you said, they're 4. It's not like the Tigers just overcame them and like just after the trade deadline. No, the Orioles have been in not last place for a while now. So it's like, it's not a new thing. It's not like just a spur of the moment, like, because the Orioles won yesterday and the Tigers lost, they flip-flop. No, it's been this case. This has been the case for the past couple of weeks.
And we didn't know before the season. We had never heard the names Aaron Brooks, Asher Wojciechowski, Tom Eshelman.
Pronounce it.
Yeah, like we had never heard of these guys that are starting games and are making, and even John Means, like we had maybe heard of him, but we had no idea that these guys were going to be starting the bulk of the games.
Yeah.
And they're starting their rotation right now, sans Cashner. For the meantime, sans Bundy, they've had to struggle, have to make up with John Means being injured a little bit.
Means too.
They are throwing out there guys like Aaron Brooks, Wojciechowski, Yacobonis, and Eshelman every day, and they are still winning these games.
Yeah. It's take it with a grain of. I mean, it's great that they're winning. It gives fans and us something to root for, to cheer for. It's like, hey, this team's actually. And we've also talked about too that, like, say for every once in a while the game that gets away from you. Like the Orioles, for the most part, have been in some games. Like if you look at some of their final scores, don't tell the full story. Like, if you watch their entire body of work, they've been in a lot of these games that they've ended up losing, which is like great because it felt like last year at times they were never competitive. No. And like it was always blowout after blowout. You would only tune in to watch Manny Machado slug a home run, and you're counting down the days until he got traded. And then now it's like, all right, can they hang in and can they pull this one out? Because it feels like every night they're at least in it.
And the other thing is it just felt like if they were close in a game last year, they lost.
Yeah.
It just felt like they were never going to close it. I can't recall how many times they had a 1-run or 2-run lead down the stretch and they blew it, or the offense just didn't come up when they needed to.
Yeah.
This Orioles team, say what you want, they are 9-12 in 1-run games.
Yeah,
that's kind of impressive. For a team that is 38-73.
Now, keep in mind that's also not that many 1-run games. True. But for you're winning 9 out of 21, it's still pretty good.
That is, I think, in itself kind of impressive.
Yeah,
it's just.
But also, look, if you go further on that box score to the side, they have a winning record against the Blue Jays, which we established the Blue Jays are a bad team, but they split this past weekend. And also, this series kind of was a microcosm of the whole season because the Thursday game got away from them. Yeah. Fine. Friday night, they were in it, but weren't able to pull it out. Saturday, they had to come back to win it, and then yesterday, they had to hold on to win it. Yeah. So it's like that's kind of how their season has gone, except for the 500 play. Right, the 500 record. Usually, it's like they're probably losing 3 out of 4, able to salvage 1. But then, obviously, the Red Sox aren't playing that great. They're not playing like the defending World Series champions, but they're only 5-8 against the Red Sox.
And the Red Sox are above 500.
I mean, I'm not saying they're a bad team, but they're not as good as we expect them to. But they're still a good team, and the Orioles are playing them well.
Yeah, exactly.
Now, the tough part is going to be coming up because they do have a terrible record against the Yankees. They're only 2-10 against the Yankees, and they play them, let's see here, 7 times in the next week because they start a 3-game series tonight, and then they have a 4-game series next weekend in New York with the Astros in between. Yeah. So 2 of the best teams, the 2 best teams in the American League, 2 of the best teams in all of baseball.
It's going to be tough.
In back-to-back series. And then they go to Boston to place the Red Sox, who are the aforementioned Red Sox. So this is going to be a tough stretch. So we'll see if they're able to hold on to like this, second to last place, third to last place position. But it's impressive they are winning now.
Yeah. So all of our fears in terms of them not getting the first overall pick might be assuaged over the next 2 weeks.
But as of right now, again, August 5th, the Orioles aren't the worst team in baseball. I think everyone was kind of anticipating a wire-to-wire situation of them being the worst team in baseball.
Pretty much.
And they're not. And that's a good thing. No, there's still plenty of time for them to end up. We can look back at this, Paul, and if, at the end of the season, the Orioles end up have the worst record, we can look back and be like, well, it wasn't that bad of a season because there were times when they were playing really well and they weren't the worst team. They were... it wasn't a wire-to-wire situation. So maybe we'll kind of get both the best of both worlds, what we both want here in terms of they do end up with the number 1 overall pick next year, but also this season wasn't like a drag on because they were just so bad. No, they actually played really well at times, and it was fun to watch.
Exactly. It's a fun time right now to be an Orioles fan.
It's a good homestand.
At least the past month. Yeah, very, very good homestand. Some nice games.
Yeah.
Some beautiful days. Some 4,000 scouts out in the left field. Some pups in the park. Yeah. All the good stuff.
All the good dogs.
I teased a while ago that we would read out some 5-star reviews, by the way, if we got some. I got a great one from lovely 5-star review from Colonel Steve T.
The Colonel.
As an Orioles fan, I love the insightful discussions and information on this podcast. I look forward to every episode. That's what you can get is your name shouted out on this podcast.
All right.
If you give us 5 stars. Like, rate, subscribe, all that good stuff.
And that's on Apple Podcasts?
Apple Podcasts.
There you go.
Yeah, and I will pretty much read it out if it's 5 stars, no matter how you could give us a 5-star review and then just bash us in the actual review, and I'll read that out.
Available on Spotify, Google Play, and SoundCloud as well. You can also watch us on Facebook.com/MASN All Access or MASN Orioles, and then at MASN Orioles on Twitter and Instagram, and then at Bobby_Blanco.
At Paul Mancano. It's like anywhere books are sold. It's like, where can you find your book? Anywhere books are sold. Anywhere podcasts are heard.
Or watched.
MASN All Access Podcast.
YouTube too.
Thanks so much for tuning in, guys.